Good evening, everybody. I see that we are really full today. That means that everybody expected really this lecture, as we all did. And I think we are really happy to have here today Dominique Perrault, who has been so kind to accept this invitation here in the UDK to talk about some of his architecture, some of his projects, his approach, his way of thinking. I think this is the most important thing, definitely in a school. Because you all know, I don't need, this is one of these cases that I really don't need to introduce who is going to talk today. Because probably Dominique Perrault, since he won this competition of the French National Library, still a very young architect at the time that we see over there, has been probably one of the, no doubt, one of the most prestigious and successful architectural offices, recognized in so many different places with prizes like the Mies van der Rohe and many others that I'm not going to mention, because I really think the most important thing is to listen to the way he approaches architecture. I was asking him what he was going to talk about, and I was happy to hear and to listen that he was going to, let's see, to talk about something very special in his architecture, which is probably not those projects that maybe you are more used to see, those projects that are so clearly expressed by the volumetric presence, even by the monumentality sometimes, by the force and the strength of the volume and the space itself, but some others that apparently disappear. And this is a quite interesting thing, because like in all good architects and great architects, there are many layers to read architecture. And in the case of Dominique Perrault, these projects that relate also to the ground become a quite different way of approaching, in my point of view, architecture, which related more to landscape, more than the object quality of architecture. Besides, I would say that you all know that besides all this geometric purity and simplicity in a way of his approach, there is always the importance of the material and the technology, something that not many architects know how to do. And this sort of expressive value of material is probably one of these reasons why when one looks to the work of Dominique Perrault, one understands why he transmits, and he's able to transmit, I would say, a poetic emotion out of this simplicity. So, but you will say it much better than me, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It's okay? You heard me? Yes, okay. Okay, thank you for this, for UDK, for this invitation. And I apologize because last time Will Arrest invited me, but with some competition, I should cancel. And I'm very happy to be there this evening, and especially also in Berlin, because you know, for me, Berlin is not an innocent city in my career. But starting by the beginning, and the beginning is not only the library. I'm coming back to the library. I would like to start with this very small project, and it's in fact an installation in Denmark, in Copenhagen, and we are working about the idea of the wall and the relationship between the architecture and the nature. And the relationship between the architecture and the nature, for me, is a very important link. And we are working about these 4 panels in glass erected around a tree. And sometimes you could see the presence of the architecture, and some other time the architecture disappears. And to be honest, I don't like very well the architecture, because the architecture, for me, is to develop some authoritarian presence and about the transformation and the mutation of the metropole, I think now it's a handicap to change the city. And we should imagine another kind of physicality of the architecture. And for me, one experimentation territory is the underground approach and situation and context of the architecture. You know, in Paris, a lot of people speaking about the library like a monument. Obviously, it's a monument. But in fact, it's like a small part of the monument, because the most part of this building is underground. And it's not a joke. It's a very important commitment about the urban design strategy. Because if you build underground this kind of huge building, you could organize in the future, after the building was or will be completely built, you could keep the liberty and the freedom about the urban fabric for the future district. And the main question about the library was not to build a building. The main question was how it's possible to build a new monument, a cultural monument, a huge monument building in this brown field, because 20 years ago, nothing on this place. It was totally void, empty space, brown field, nothing. And the idea is to create a void in the middle of the void. You should be very young architect to think that. A lot of people thinking it's absolutely crazy to build a void in the center, in the middle of the void. But now it's a treasure in this district, because this void is a unique public space, empty space in the center of the new district, very dense. And this story working about the relationship between the citizen and the public building, because the public building is built with the public money. Okay. And the citizen pay with tax to build the public building. And one of main ideas about this building is to imagine, to promote a public space beyond the library. And we are creating this huge and very important esplanade in wood. And this esplanade becomes like the new core of the district and becomes like the interface between the library underground and the district around. And this idea is also a very important strategy to organize the disparition of the building, because the library is the volume of the library is 3 volumes of the Centre Pompidou. It's a very, very important building. I think it's a monster. It's a monster to build this kind of huge building. And if you remember, the project of Rem Koolhaas for the library is exactly the opposite. And Rem built a very, very strong and solid cube, more or less 100 meters high, the cube. And it is exactly the same project, but it is the opposite. The cube of Rem is in between these four corners. And this cube disappears because this cube is underground around the garden. And we are creating the presence of the building by these four corners. And this four corners, at the end, is the absence of the building built underground. And also, it's possible, with this kind of morphology of the building, to plant a huge garden is a piece of forest. And this garden is like a building. We build the garden. We build the garden like we are building the library. And this idea also is another kind of paradox about the contemporary architecture and the contemporary world and nature. Finally, the nature is not nature. The nature is artificial now. And it's possible to create a nature like we build a building. It's not natural. This garden is not natural. But now, some people said, when I meet them, they said, thank you, Mr. Architect, to protect the forest in the center of the library. You know, it is the power of the nature. It's not the power of the architecture. It's another word. And after the library and the question about the relationship between the void of the library and the underground situation of the library is also a political position about the library. Because usually this kind of building is built with a fence around, with a grid, with a barrier, with boundaries. And the idea of the library is to build a monument, a cultural monument, without wall. No wall around. It's open. It is the power of the void. In Berlin is stronger because in Berlin the building is not around the garden. The buildings are inside the garden. And the main idea about this building is to create an answer about the candidature of the city of Berlin for the millennium, for the Olympic Games. And the answer is exactly the opposite of the stadium of 36 with the Nazi power. And in this building, the building doesn't exist. We are working about the total disparition of the building. If you are walking, you know, I imagine this place. The swimming pool is very good. It's an advice for you. And the velodrome also, but it's a little bit more complex. But the swimming pool is nice. And it is the park. It's not a very elegant park. It's just a lawn and some apple trees, and that's it. But the most important thing is the void. It's in the future, step by step, we have time, and the city, and the life of the city have time. We could imagine some connection, some relationship, new relationship between different districts around this park, this garden. And the idea is to include in the ground, in the soil, two shapes. The first is a circle. It's a velodrome. Perfect. The second is rectangular. It's a swimming pool. Perfect. You are an architect, definitively. And about the shape, you could forget it. About the relationship, the physicality of this building is totally different because when you are arriving, you think, oh, I understand whole. But step by step, it's a real exploration. You discover this building step by step, and it's a real surprise. And this surprise is about also the architecture inside. And this disc is a little bit like a paradox about the static conception. Usually, a steel frame gets some slope, like a roof, and you go step by step to the top, from the top to the bottom. In this case, all is horizontal. The surface above is flat. Okay, it's flat because we should get a horizontal surface with a lot of carpets in metal fabric. And this carpet, you saw a slide about that. These carpets creating an effect, a visual effect, absolutely flat or just shimmering is absolutely perfect. With some component, we could create a huge surface flat. But the most exciting is the surface, the side underneath, this one. And this one also is flat. And when you are going into this velodrome, the weight of the steel frame disappears. You feel a floating roof, but this roof is very heavy. If you add the weight of this roof of the velodrome and the weight of the roof of the swimming pool, it's more or less the weight of the Eiffel Tower in Paris. It's not nothing. But when you are walking and going in this building with a flat surface, your feeling, physical feeling, is no weight. The roof floating. And for me, it's very interesting because anytime when I can change this kind of relationship between the presence of the architecture and the body of the people and the physicality feeling of the people, I'm very happy. Because the architecture could change and could becomes maybe alive or aliving feeling. Okay. And about the swimming pool, and another project in France is a very small project. It's also a position about the beauty or maybe about the patrimony and the heritage. It's a manor. Historically, this land was a park with a manor. And this kind of building appeared maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And this building is a laboratory. And the owner of this site would like to change the quality of this manor. Sorry, I would like to see the manor. There. Sorry. Yes. It is a manor. And the owner organized a competition a long time ago. Oh. Yeah. 9. Danke. Okay. And the owner organized a competition between 3 young architects, more or less young. Jean Nouvel, Christian Porzenparc, and Dominique Perrault. And how it's possible to transform and to change this manor in a congress center. And Christian Porzenparc developed more or less the clone of this manor. You know, and he followed more or less the very famous project of Louis Kahn, 2 square, like that. And but it's an idea. And Jean Nouvel developed another strategy with a small pavilion with a Congress Center, more or less, at the end, at the bottom of the park. And me, I tried to say, okay, this manor is not very beautiful. But the great quality about this manor is existing, is the existing condition. And I think it could be interesting to manipulate the existing condition without analysis about the style. We could have a very interesting dinner and to speak about the style of this manor, architectural style. But it's a dinner. In this case, it's a project. And the idea of this project is to organize the expansion of this building underground and to creating a metaphoric presence with this glass, this circle very flat, horizontal in glass. And this circle creating the effect of water, pool, the surface of water. And during the night also, it could be interesting. And also, you know, it's a little bit risky to build underground. And this kind of situation, you should be very confident about your process and about your approach, because it's necessary to develop some other kind of means or needs with infrastructure and génie civil, like a bridge, you know, like some huge work. And in this case, it's more or less the same thing. How is possible to dig this Congress Center underground and underneath this building? And at the end, you could see the effect. And finally, we keep the presence of the old manor. We're increasing the metaphoric image of this building in the park, and we change totally the function inside. And the same approach about a recent competition in the city of Nantes, and the project is there. And it's a museum, an archaeological museum. And the question during the competition is, or was, how it's possible to expand the museum, but also to find a connection between three buildings. This one, 15th century, this one during the 70s, and this one 19th century. And this garden is an interesting garden, but is a garden of the museum in the center of a historical district of Nantes, and very dense district. And the idea is to change a little bit the location of the program. During the competition, the program was imagined behind the building of the 19th century, like an expansion on the north face. And we propose the same volume, but underneath, like a circle. And this circle connecting this building with this one, and also with this one behind. And finally, we are creating a new morphology about this building. It is a project, and it is an existing situation. And with this surface, it's a a mixed surface with some water, with some glass, and with some patio, and we change the dry aspect of this square, and we change in another green place, and also we are working about the entrance, because the entrance of the museum is this one, and also we don't want to change the location of the entrance, but we would like to change the quality of this street. It's a small street in slope, and we are creating another kind of slope, another kind of topography along the museum to get a new entrance with a double high at the same place that the former entrance is. This one. And I like this kind of situation. We change nothing, but all is different. And this kind of statement and development of the architecture is very very smooth, but also very poetic. And some view. And quickly. And about this series, this project is certainly the most impressive, because the university, the Women's University in Seoul, is a real landscape, and at the end, the building disappears totally. But it's not a style, it's a consequence about analysis of a site, but also about the politic of development from the client. And in this case, it is a site, the university, the Women's University in Korea. And about this site, the story is very important. The history is very important. This university is an old university. It was created 120 years ago by an American missionary. And this American missionary would like to educate the concubine of the emperor. And she created the route of the university. Now you have 25,000 students, only women. And the idea about the staff from the staff of the university is to recreate the ambience and the identity of the university. Because 20 years ago, more or less, not more, 20 years ago maximum, the young Korean girl stay less and less and spend less and less time on the campus of the university. After course, she are leaving quickly to go in the city. And finally, the identity and the social link and the friend network between them disappear. And the idea of the university is to try to transform this situation in another situation with some new routes, with a new identity for students about this campus. And the idea is to promote some facilities for students. These facilities becomes like some pavilions for a new entrance between the district, urban district, and the territory of the campus. And my proposal is to build not some new pavilion, but build a new landscape, not exactly new, to build a park or maybe the expansion of the existing park and to create a special place for the entrance and organize these services like the trade union, like the interface between the campus itself and the district. And we imagine to dig a big hole, a very big hole. And after we are building in this hole the building, and in this building no rooms, only services. You have some restaurants, we have some shops, you have some shoptel, you have some workshop room, you have some library, fitness, theater, movies, etc., etc. All facilities for students at the entrance of the university, and step by step we are recreating the former topography of the university, because if I come back, you see the existing site with this parking lot and this training stadium. They changed totally the original topography of this hill. And the main idea is to rebuild the topography and to recreate the original situation in this park and with this park and with the geography of the campus. And step by step, the building disappears and appear a new landscape, a new image for this campus. It's very open on the city, and sometimes is impossible to imagine the presence of this valley. And some other time, you are in this axis and you could walk along the valley. You could see on the left, you are on the roof, on the right also. And now the handrail also is totally included in the trees and the bush. The other view. And when you are arriving, it's very difficult to appreciate if you have some window or glass. You see only the metal structure, like a fin, and this metal structure is in stainless steel polishing mirror. And this structure introduces the light into the university, into this part of the university. But when you are going in the valley, step by step, you could see the transparency and the light introduced in the building. It's very simple, and also it's very sustainable. When I won this competition, it was a little bit strange, because now 7 or 8 years ago, and in Asia, it was impossible to win a competition with a building that doesn't exist. In Asia, they like the big building, fat building, high building, shimmering building, a building. Okay? In this case, no building. It's a woman university. And it's not a chairman, it's a chairwoman on the top. It's certainly the real reason to accept this kind of project. And also, I didn't win about the sustainability. But now, this building in Asia is a real important and great reference because this building underground is very stable and it's not necessary to spend a lot of money about the heating system. And also, this kind of situation creating a real comfort and quality about this situation. And it's totally available to accept this building in this kind of context. And sorry, I know the picture. And about the last one, another kind of strategy about the underground situation and approach is Santiago de Compostela, the city of the culture. And the winner about this competition is Peter Eisenman. And the program and the idea from the city and the government of this region was a little bit strange, and I was not very convincing about that. They would like to build a huge cultural center, art, and with a concert hall, with a library, galleries, and a lot. Why not? But they imagine to build this program outside of the city, small city of Santiago, on this hill. And for me, it was a very, very bizarre idea. And if I compare the urban situation between the city of Santiago with the cathedral, very famous, the same surface of the hill with this complex, this program of art building. This is a view. You could see the cathedral and the hill outside on the side of the historical city and the program of this project. And I think it's impossible to creating an interesting building on the top of the hill. And for me, it's a totally stupid idea. And I imagine, okay, I would like to use the powerful of the site, and I imagine to use the hill like the facade of the building. And I introduce on the top of the hill a big volume in glass with some mirror and screen inside. It's not the entrance of this complex. It is only the instrument to introduce the natural light at the bottom of this building. The entrance is there. And we imagine to create some special situation with this volume in glass and organize around this vertical volume all function of this city of art. it is a model with a project and the component and tools to conduct the natural light at the bottom of this building. The volume of this instrument is very important because it's more or less 80 meters high. And I am sure it's a little bit pity because it was a great opportunity to develop this exploration and this experimentation about the natural light and to introduce the natural light in the bottom, in the ground floor. And I would like to say about the conclusion concerning this kind of approach, because not my all buildings are underground, but this situation, I think, is or maybe this specificity for me is a very serious way to develop another kind of morphology about the metropole. Because at the end of the 19th century, the European metropole were very coherent about the infrastructure and the structure of the city. You have some absolutely perfect connection between the urban fabric above and the urban fabric facilities underneath, with the metro, with some other, the waste, and so. Now we are in another kind of perception or vision about the underground situation. It's a shit, you know. It's nothing. And maybe it could be a mistake, because this kind of sickness underground could be a real treasure to develop the metropole, not above the metropole, but underneath the metropole. And if you imagine, I imagine, to the new plan voisin of Le Corbusier for Paris. I don't want to build some tower like Le Corbusier. I want to dig some holes at the same place. It's fantastic. You could see the metro, you could see different spaces appear and fitting and working with the building itself. Also, we could imagine another kind of relationship with the water underground. If you imagine your building with your lift, and okay, I am living at the 7th floor, okay, but sometimes I go underground and swim, because underground you have some water. It could be interesting, and to organize another world more coherent, more clean, more sustainable, with the underground treasure. And I think also about the vision of the architecture is totally different, because the wall is not the finality of the architecture. Now we could imagine a substance and another feelings and physicality with not only the earth, not only the light, but also with the soil, with another part of the world. And I think this kind of approach could be developed with some engineer and some doctor, because we have need some other territory to investigate this kind of substance. And I think also this conscience, if you want, about the underground possibility or opportunity is also, for example, about the e-commerce. Another example. Now, you know, around the city, you have a lot of warehouse, a lot of boxes, stocks for the e-commerce. Okay, you call, but the physicality of your order is coming. And you have a lot of warehouse like that. And some trucks go from the warehouse to the center of the city and like that. It's not very clean. It's not very sustainable. But we could imagine to build this kind of warehouse underground. It's more easy. And we could develop some kind of circle and build some new building above. And I think this kind of research is not a research in only one way. It's a research about another idea to combine the natural and the artificial situation of the planet. Thank you. Oh, c'est bien. Pardon?
You like people to have questions?
If you have some question, it's okay, but very simple question. The complex question only in French.
You mentioned a lot of good arguments you use for building downwards instead of upwards. If you meet a very concerned client who will say, well, in Berlin is built on a very swampy underground. In Korea, maybe they have earthquake, I don't know. What kind of arguments do you use for all the practical stuff that comes with building underground?
But for the client, is maybe a little, not a lot, expensive to build underground. But the benefit is about the land, because you reduce the footprint and you use the surface free above for another function. And for the client, at the end, is a real strong and positive benefit. And also about the sustainability is very, very efficient.
Also in terms of heating and light?
Yes, absolutely. The inertia it's very, very efficient. Yeah, for example, in Korea, the calculation was $2.5 million about the fee for the energy, the cost of the energy by year. They spend less 1 million. It's very, very efficient. But it's not new. It's an old story. In the countryside and around the planet is not new, but the new item, if you want, is the contemporary architecture, and it's a little bit different because the contemporary architecture doesn't work, and especially not the contemporary architecture becomes good, better and better, but the modern movement was very Puritan. And the modern movement don't want to touch the ground floor. They build some pilotis and columns, and they build the building above. And the nature was underneath the building. Don't touch the nature. You know, in this case, is a little bit different about the psychology, about the psychanalysis also. You know, it's we embrace, je sais pas si on peut dire ça, mais the world, you know, completely. And this reaction is also a reaction about, because now you know all parts of the planet. It's impossible to discover something on the planet. We know all. It's finished. Our world is finished. You know, and we should. It's another psychology. It's totally different. When during the 19th century, when you are arriving in US, okay, nothing was finished, but now it's finished, and the psychology is our psychology is totally different. And the successful, and I think also about the virtual network, is not. Comment on dit, c'est pas un hasard. It's the virtual network appear because the world is finished. You know, we have need some other world. And I think it's not a surprise. Sorry for my English. It's not a surprise. We're creating and we develop this kind of world now because the physical world is finished. I think it's oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Oui.
I would like to ask about not about absence, but about present or presence, because I think you talked a lot about metaphoric presence, a kind of metaphoric presence in your projects. So I would like to ask, what, in your opinion, what is the metaphoric content of building underneath? Is that something fantastic, like caves or other metaphoric?
No. About the feeling, it's not fantastic. It's not, you know, it's a. In this, for example, in the University of Seoul, you don't feel the weight of the park above. You are in a building. When you are in a building, you are in a building. But your memory, if you want, no, you are protected. You know, it's a little bit different also. If you are in a building with some windows and some, okay, you are protected. But in this building, you are very, very protected. Like like in your mother. It's a woman university. And you know, and it's not oppressive, you know, oppressive space. It's freedom. But in your brain, you feel a protected space. Bon, je ne sais pas répondre autrement pour l'instant. En français, je pourrais le dire, mais next time. Sorry.
Project influenced by the project of Chilida, where he carves out the mountain. I don't know the name of it. But there's
Which?
a project by Chilida, where he carves.
Chilida? The Spanish?
Yeah.
You are sure? About what?
About like catching light from above and to dig the hill and to make a hole inside.
Yeah, but Chile, I don't know. But you have some very important artists from like Michael Eisner, American artist, and some other artists working about the land art, and this kind of project working with this approach And also, for example, artists like Richard Long. I don't know if you know this kind of photograph, some picture, and you have a huge landscape, mountain landscape, stone, only stone. And Richard Long organized a line with the stones, but like organized in a line, small line. And this very small, very minimalist installation, creating the relationship between the scale of the man and of the human being, if you want, and the landscape. And it's very, very emotional. And with this kind of project, I think it's possible also to with some very radical but reduced component, where it's possible to create this relationship between the landscape, the nature, the big scale, and the human scale. Because in this project, for example, this project is fitting and working with the big scale. It is the scale of the landscape. But if you are in, the scale is a human scale. And it's very emotional, because in the university, or maybe also in the library in Paris, okay, when you are arriving, it's a very large scale. And when you are in, it's very human. And this passage, if you want, between this scale, the big one, and the human scale is very, very emotional. Is a very intimate experience for the people. Okay, I feel the group, I feel the global, and when I am in, I feel the small group, the local, and so in the same building. And
let me ask, you mentioned these columns of the modern style, like Corbusier did, and so
yeah.
on. But actually, what you are doing is this, let's say, Mies Perrault kind of approach, like he did here in the very famous National Gallery.
Yeah.
He built that staircases, and into the ground he put most of the space underneath, and then on top there is this wonderful entrance hall. And I think that this is very similar to your approach, isn't it?
Yeah, right, and I agree, and because with Mies, and Mies for me is not a Puritan architect. Mies is a more abstract architect. He working with the concept and with the abstraction about the Stadtgalerie, and the weight is above, and you have some glass, and you have a large spaces underground, and it's and you know, if I compare with the modern movement and the dogmatic approach of the modern movement, the relationship with a site doesn't exist, and it not doesn't exist. I don't want to see the site, you know. For me, it's my feeling, and Mies is different, because the strategy of Mies is working with a huge scale also, and it's for me is very, very different relationship if I compare with Le Corbusier, because I'm thinking about him. Mais je peux pas bien vous répondre en anglais, c'est dommage, parce que sorry for my my answer is not complete. Bon, allez, on s'arrête là. Hein. Oh. OK. Merci à vous.